The first real sign wasn't a late night out, a secretive smile, or a locked phone. It was the way she laughed. Not her usual laugh, the one I knew, the one I had fallen for years ago. No, this was something else. Lighter, effortless. The kind of laugh that comes when you're genuinely happy, when something excites you deep inside. And it wasn't because of me. I noticed it during dinner one evening. Emily sat across from me, scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging the food in front of her. Then, out of nowhere, she let out this soft, breathy chuckle, her lips curling into a smirk. It was quick, fleeting, but enough to send a strange, uneasy sensation crawling down my spine. "What's funny?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. She blinked up at me, almost startled, like she had forgotten I was even sitting there. "Oh, nothing. Just a meme." A meme. I forced a smile and went back to my meal, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Not because of what she said, but because of what I saw, her thumb swiping up the moment I spoke, the way she tilted the screen just slightly away from me. It was small, insignificant even, but something inside me screamed that it meant more. I told myself to ignore it. I really did. But doubt is like a splinter. Once it's under your skin, you can't stop feeling it, can't stop thinking about it. And so, the next time she left her phone on the counter while she went to the bathroom, I reached for it. Not to snoop, just to confirm. The screen lit up as soon as I touched it. A single notification. A name. Mason. I had no idea who Mason was. The message preview was short. "Tomorrow. Usual spot?" My stomach dropped. My hands clenched around the phone. Footsteps. I barely had time to put it back before she reappeared, wiping her hands on a towel. She glanced at me, then at her phone. Her fingers hesitated just for a second before she picked it up. And in that second, I saw something. The faintest flicker of hesitation. Like she was wondering if I had seen something I shouldn't have. She shoved the phone into her pocket. "I'm heading out with Nicole tonight. Girls' night." I nodded, keeping my face neutral. "Have fun." But as she grabbed her purse and walked out the door, I already knew. There was no girls' night. There was only Mason. That I sat in my car across the street from O'Malley's, a dimly lit bar on the edge of town. The kind of place where no one asks questions and everyone minds their own business. Emily had left the house nearly an hour ago, dressed sharper than usual. Heels, tight jeans, that black top I once loved on her. Not the kind of outfit she'd wear for a casual drink with Nicole. My hands tightened around the steering wheel as I watched through the windshield. I shouldn't have followed her. I knew that. But when she walked out that door earlier, a sinking feeling took over, and before I knew it, I was tailing her like some desperate, paranoid fool. And now, here I was, watching my wife walk into a bar I had never heard her mention before. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I fought with myself, debating whether to go inside or drive away, pretend I never saw a thing. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was being insane. Then I saw him. Mason. I didn't know his name for sure, but the way he moved toward Emily the moment she appeared inside told me everything I needed to know. He was tall, confident, dressed in a fitted button-down, the sleeves rolled up like some try-hard bad boy. But it was Emily's reaction that made my blood run cold. The way her face lit up, the way she touched his arm, leaned into him, whispered something in his ear. I felt something crack inside me. I watched as they slid into a booth in the back, bodies close, her hand resting on his forearm like it belonged there, like she had done it 1,000 times before. I should have walked in right then and there, caused a scene, thrown my ring on the table and let the whole damn bar know what kind of woman she was. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my phone and did something I never thought I'd have to do. I called a private investigator. The next morning, I sat in my office with the blinds drawn, my mind running in circles. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, laughing, leaning into him, touching him like he was the one she shared a life with. Not me. The call with the private investigator had been short. Daniel Carter, a guy recommended by a friend who had been through his own nightmare of a divorce. Daniel didn't ask unnecessary questions. He just told me he'd get the proof I needed. Proof. As if watching her cozy up to some other guy wasn't enough. But I needed more than suspicion. I needed something undeniable. By midday, I was sitting at my desk, phone in hand, waiting for an update. My job? Completely forgotten. I was supposed to be reviewing contracts, but all I could think about was Emily, the man she was sneaking around with, and the unbearable truth that my marriage was a freaking joke. Then my phone buzzed. She's on the move. Want me to keep following? I swallowed hard. Yes, don't lose her. A full hour passed before another message came in. She's at the Lexington Hotel. Room 214. She's not alone. The air left my lungs. I gripped my phone so tightly my fingers ached. I knew what this meant. There was no explaining this away. No more excuses about girls' night or late meetings. She was in a hotel room with him. I pushed back from my desk so hard the chair nearly tipped over. My blood pounded in my ears as I grabbed my keys and left. The drive to the hotel was a blur of red lights and honking horns. My hands trembled against the steering wheel, my mind playing out 1,000 scenarios of what I was about to walk into. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, I wasn't even thinking straight. I stepped out of my car and spotted Daniel immediately. He was standing near the entrance, a plain-looking guy in jeans and a black jacket, a camera slung over his shoulder. "She's still in there," he said, nodding toward the building. I forced a breath through my nose. "Are you sure it's him?" Daniel pulled out his phone and flipped through the pictures. My stomach turned. Emily and Mason walking into the hotel together, her hand in his. I didn't hesitate. I moved. I stormed into the lobby, ignoring the receptionist's startled look as I made a beeline for the elevators. My heart slammed against my ribs with every step. When the doors slid open, I stepped inside and hit the button for the second floor. This was it. No more pretending. No more doubts. I was about to catch my wife red-handed. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, but to me it sounded like a gunshot. My pulse roared in my ears as I stepped into the dimly lit hallway. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. Room 214 was just down the corridor. Only a few steps stood between me and the truth I already knew but refused to accept. I moved fast. Each step felt heavier than the last, my body thrumming with pure adrenaline. My breath was shallow, my chest tight. When I reached the door, I didn't hesitate. I raised my fist and pounded. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. Still nothing. Then, from inside, I heard it, movement. A shuffle, the sound of hushed voices. A soft, muffled laugh. Her laugh. My patience snapped. I slammed my palm against the door. "Emily! Open the damn door!" Silence. For a moment, I thought she might try to ignore me, pretend I wasn't standing there, ready to tear this whole place apart. But then, finally, I heard the click of the lock. The door opened just enough for her to peek out, her face pale, eyes wide with shock. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. Busted. What are you doing here?" she stammered, her voice high, fake, guilty as hell. I pushed past her before she could react, my eyes scanning the room. And there he was, Mason, standing near the bed, shirt unbuttoned, a cocky smirk tugging at his lips like this was some kind of game. I saw red. "You want to tell me what the hell is going on?" My voice was dangerously calm, but my hands were shaking. I wanted to break something. Emily swallowed hard, stepping between me and him, her hands up like she was trying to calm a wild animal. "It's not what you think," she blurted. "I can explain." "Not what I think?" I let out a bitter laugh, running a hand through my hair. "You're in a hotel room with another man, Emily. You seriously expect me to believe you were just here to watch movies?" She blinked rapidly, her lips parting like she was scrambling for an excuse, but nothing came out, because there wasn't one. Mason, the absolute idiot, finally decided to speak. "Hey man, maybe you should calm down." Wrong move. I took a step toward him, my jaw tight, every muscle in my body coiled. "And maybe you should shut the hell up before I knock that smug look off your face." Emily gasped, grabbing my arm. "Stop it. Just go home. Okay? We'll talk later." I yanked my arm free and stared at her like I didn't even know her anymore. Maybe I didn't. "Talk later," I repeated, my voice hollow. "Are you actually serious right now? You cheat on me. You lie to my face. And you think I'm just gonna walk away and wait for you to explain?" She crossed her arms, her face twisting into something ugly, defensive, like somehow I was the problem. "You know what?" she snapped. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me for once instead of working all the time, I wouldn't have needed to. Don't. I cut her off, my voice low and sharp. Don't you dare try to put this on me. Her mouth snapped shut. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. You're disgusting. Mason chuckled under his breath. Chuckled. Like this was some sitcom and not the complete destruction of my marriage. That was it. I lunged. Emily shrieked, jumping between us, but I didn't care. I grabbed Mason by the collar, slamming him back against the wall so hard the cheap picture frame above the bed rattled. You think this is funny? I snarled, my fist itching to knock the smugness right out of him. You think screwing another man's wife is just a joke? He didn't answer, probably because he was too busy looking terrified. Emily clawed at my arm, screaming, "Let him go, you psycho." I released him with a hard shove, my heart hammering, my breathing ragged. Then I turned to Emily. We're done. Her eyes widened, her whole body jerking like I had slapped her. Wait, no. You're overreacting. We can fix this. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Fix this? There's nothing left to fix, Emily. And with that, I walked out, leaving her standing there, her lover still cowering behind her, the reality of what she'd done finally sinking in. But me? I was already gone. I didn't drive home. Couldn't. The walls of that house, the bed I had shared with her, the kitchen where we had eaten dinner like a normal couple just last night. It all felt like a lie, like some twisted joke I had been too stupid to see. So instead, I drove. Aimlessly. The city lights blurred past me, my hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from losing it completely. My heart was still pounding from the confrontation, my knuckles sore from slamming Mason against the wall. And yet, somehow I felt nothing, just numbness. At some point, I pulled into a 24-hour diner. I don't even remember deciding to stop. I was just suddenly there, sitting in a red vinyl booth, staring blankly at a menu I wasn't going to read. Coffee? I looked up. The waitress, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes, was watching me with something close to pity. Maybe she had seen guys like me before, guys who sat alone at 2 a.m., looking like their entire world had just collapsed. Yeah, I muttered. Black. She nodded and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I should have felt relief. I had walked away. I had done the right thing, ripped off the Band-Aid before she could feed me more lies. And yet, all I could think about was her voice, the way she had tried to turn it on me. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me for once instead of working all the time, as if her cheating was my fault, as if I had somehow forced her into the arms of another man. The audacity of it made my stomach turn. The waitress came back, setting the coffee down in front of me. I barely noticed. I pulled out my phone. A dozen missed calls from Emily. A handful of texts. Where are you? Please come home so we can talk. You're not answering. This isn't fair. Seriously? You're just gonna ignore me? Fine. If you want to throw away everything we built, that's on you. I let out a slow, bitter exhale. Unbelievable. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She wasn't crying or begging for forgiveness. No, she was mad that she got caught. Mad that I had the nerve to leave instead of letting her spin more pathetic excuses. The phone buzzed again. Another call. This time I answered. I didn't say anything at first. Just waited. Her voice came through the line. Sharp. Annoyed. Are you really doing this? Are you seriously ghosting me like a child? I clenched my jaw. You cheated on me, Emily. Silence. Then a sigh. Look, I messed up. Okay? But you just storming off like that? That was dramatic as hell. I almost laughed. She messed up. Like she had accidentally sent the wrong text or forgot to take the trash out. I pinched the bridge of my nose, forcing myself to stay calm. I'm filing for divorce. This time she reacted. Wait, what? No, you're not doing that. I already made up my mind. Her voice rose, turning sharp, defensive. Oh, so that's it? You're just throwing away our marriage because of one mistake. One mistake. I repeated, my voice dangerously low. Emily, how long has this been going on? She hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. Yeah, that's what I thought. Her tone turned desperate. Babe, please. We can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can. You didn't just cheat, Emily. I cut her off. You lied. Over and over. You looked me in the eyes, kissed me goodnight, and then went to him. There's no coming back from that. Her breathing was uneven now, like she was actually starting to realize she had lost. You don't mean this, she whispered. I do. Silence. Then, her voice turned cold. Fine. You want to ruin our marriage? Go ahead. But don't act like I was the only one who did something wrong. You were never around. You never made me feel wanted. What was I supposed to do? I closed my eyes, gripping the phone so tightly it almost snapped. Good night, Emily. And then, before she could say another word, I hung up. For the first time in years, I finally felt like I had control. The divorce papers were on the table. Clean, white stack of reality. It had been 3 days since I caught Emily in that hotel room. And in those 3 days, my phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Calls, texts, even emails. She had gone through every stage of guilt like she was following a script. Day 1, begging. Apologies. The classic "it didn't mean anything" speech. I ignored her. Day 2, justifications. Excuses. You never made time for me. I was lonely. I thought you didn't love me anymore. All bullshit. Day 3, anger. And that was when I knew I had won. You're really gonna ruin our lives over one stupid thing? She had snapped on her last call. You're acting like some bitter, jealous loser. Grow up. That was the thing about Emily. When she couldn't manipulate you with tears, she tried to break you down with venom. But I wasn't playing anymore. And now, here I was, sitting in my lawyer's office, staring at the contract that would officially erase her from my life. You sure about this? Matt, my lawyer and old college friend, asked. He already knew the answer, but his job was to double-check. I picked up the pen. Sign it before I change my mind and strangle her instead. He let out a low whistle. I knew she was bad news, man. But damn, she really did a number on you. I exhaled through my nose. You don't know the half of it. The ink hit the paper. Just like that, 8 years of marriage became a legal process. Matt took the papers and flipped through them. All right, we'll get this filed today. Expect her to drag it out, though. Women like Emily don't go down without a fight. I scoffed. She already lost. But I underestimated just how low she was willing to go. That night, I was at my apartment. My apartment now, since I had kicked Emily out. She had begged to stay. But I wasn't about to sleep under the same roof as the woman who had spent months screwing another man. I was halfway through a bottle of whiskey when my phone rang. Not Emily this time. Daniel, the private investigator. I frowned and picked up. Did you forget to bill me? His voice was tense. You need to see this. There was something in his tone that made my stomach twist. See what? A pause. Then, Emily and Mason. They're meeting again. My fingers tightened around the glass. Where? Not a hotel this time. Her lawyer's office. I froze. Wait, lawyer. Daniel sighed. Yeah, I did some digging. She's trying to counterfile. Wants to claim you were the unfaithful one. I laughed. A dry, humorless sound. She's actually insane. Oh, it gets worse, Daniel said. Mason isn't just some random guy. He's a divorce attorney. The words punched me in the gut. I stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. You're telling me she's been screwing the lawyer she hired to take my money? Looks that way. I ran a hand down my face. Of course. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning. This wasn't some mistake. She had been laying the groundwork for months. My phone buzzed again. A text from Emily. Let's settle this like adults. Meet me tomorrow. No lawyers. Just us. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. She wanted to talk? Fine. But she had no idea what was coming. I arrived at the cafe early. Not because I was eager to see Emily. I just wanted to control the room before she got there. The place was quiet, tucked away in a side street downtown. The kind of spot where people whispered over coffee, where a public screaming match would look out of place. Smart choice, Emily. She knew I wouldn't cause a scene here. I sat by the window, hands wrapped around a coffee cup I had no intention of drinking. My mind replayed everything Daniel had told me. Mason wasn't just her affair. He was her weapon. She had been setting this up for a long time, playing the victim while making sure she landed on her feet. I was still processing that when the door swung open. Emily walked in, scanning the cafe until she spotted me. Then, like clockwork, she put on her act. The slightly hesitant step, the nervous bite of her lip, the wide eyes that once made me weak. Not anymore. She slid into the seat across from me, folding her hands on the table like we were two old friends catching up. "You look like hell," she said. I smirked. "Not getting much sleep. Hard to rest when your wife is busy banging her divorce lawyer." A flicker of something passed over her face. Shock? Guilt? No. Annoyance. Like I was an inconvenience she had to deal with. "I assume Daniel told you." "Yeah. Turns out, hiring a private investigator is useful when your wife turns into a cartoon villain." She exhaled, her fingers drumming against the table. "Look, we don't have to make this ugly. I just want what I deserve." I leaned back in my chair, letting out a slow laugh. "What you deserve? Emily, you cheated on me for months. And now, you and your little boyfriend think you can shake me down." She tilted her head, her expression shifting into something more calculated. "You worked a lot, you know? Left me alone for weeks at a time. That's emotional neglect. A good lawyer could argue that." I stiffened. There it was. The real Emily. Not the guilty wife. Not the apologetic cheater. The viper. "Is that what Mason's telling you?" I asked. "That you can spin this around and make me the bad guy?" She shrugged, all innocence. "I'm just saying, fighting me in court could get messy." I stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, I pulled out my phone. Her eyes flicked to it. "What are you doing?" I swiped through my files and turned the screen toward her. "I've got everything, Emily. Texts, photos, timestamps. You walked into a hotel with Mason while my PI had a camera on you. Do you really want to go to war with me?" For the first time, she hesitated. She hadn't expected this. She thought she could control the story, manipulate me like she always had. But I wasn't the same fool who ignored the signs for months. "You want to drag this out?" I continued, voice low. "Fine. But I'll make sure every dirty little detail gets put in front of a judge. Your family, your friends. Hell, even your boss will know exactly who you are." Her nails tapped against the table, a nervous twitch. "You wouldn't." I smiled. "Try me." Silence stretched between us. Then, something cracked in her. Her posture shifted. The fight in her eyes dimmed, replaced by something else, defeat. She inhaled sharply, then exhaled through her nose. "What do you want?" I leaned forward, lowering my voice just enough to make sure she felt every word. "You signed the divorce papers as they are. No demands. No settlement. No alimony. Nothing." Her jaw clenched. "That's not fair. Neither is screwing your lawyer while pretending to love me." Her lips pressed into a thin line. I could see the wheels turning in her head, calculating whether she could still win. She couldn't, and she knew it. Finally, she let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "You really hate me, don't you?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. The woman I had once loved, the woman I had built a life with, and the woman who had burned it all down with a smirk on her lips. "I don't hate you, Emily," I said, standing up. "I just don't care anymore." I grabbed my coat and walked out, leaving her sitting there, alone. And for the first time in months, I felt free. The official divorce hearing was set for 2 weeks later, but in the end, Emily folded before it even got that far. She had no choice. Once she realized I had her cornered. All the proof, all the leverage, all the control. She signed the papers with gritted teeth, shoving the pen across the table like a sore loser handing over her last poker chip. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt done. But Emily? She wasn't the type to go down quietly. The night after she signed, I was in my apartment, finally starting to feel like my life was mine again, when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. "You should know your wife isn't as innocent as she pretends to be." I frowned, staring at the message. The area code was local. Then, another text came through. Unknown. "She wasn't just cheating with Mason. You might want to check the dates." A cold sensation crept up my spine. My first instinct was to ignore it. Emily was already out of my life. I didn't need more drama. But something about the wording made my gut twist. I typed back, Who is this? No response. I sat there, staring at the screen, my brain running in circles. I had already won. I had my proof, my divorce, my clean break. Did it even matter if there was more? But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I pulled up Daniel's number and called him. Yeah? He answered, sounding half asleep. I need you to check something for me, I said. The evidence you gathered on Emily, hotel meetups, timestamps, all of it. I need to know if she was only seeing Mason, or if there were others. Daniel let out a long sigh. You sure you want to open that door? No, I wasn't. But something in my gut told me I needed to. Just check. The next day, Daniel sent me a file. And that was when I realized just how deep Emily's betrayal really ran. She hadn't just been sleeping with Mason. She had been with at least 3 other men. 3. The first affair started over a year ago, long before she had even pretended to be unhappy in our marriage. And the worst part? One of the guys was someone I knew, coworker, someone I had shaken hands with, someone who had looked me in the eye while sleeping with my wife behind my back. I sat in my car, gripping my phone so hard I thought it might crack, scrolling through pictures that made my stomach churn. Emily smiling up at him. Emily sitting in his passenger seat. Emily walking into his apartment like she had done it 100 times. A year. A damn year. I had spent months blaming myself, wondering if I had worked too much, if I had pushed her away. But the truth was uglier. She had never loved me. Not really. I took a deep breath, forcing my heartbeat to slow. I had 2 options. 1, confront her. Show her the pictures. Force her to see how badly she had ruined everything. But that would mean giving her the satisfaction of knowing she still had some kind of hold over me. 2, walk away for good. She was already losing the divorce. No money, no settlement, no power over me. But now I could make sure she lost everything else too. I picked up my phone and called Daniel. You still have a contact at her job? Daniel paused. Yeah, why? I looked at the photos one last time, then exhaled. Send them in. Emily's world came crashing down faster than I expected. I had barely finished my morning coffee when the first call came in. Not from her, from a mutual friend. Dude, what the hell is going on? Jake's voice crackled through the phone, urgent and laced with something close to amusement. Emily just got fired. I smirked, leaning back in my chair. Oh, that's unfortunate. Unfortunate. Jake let out a low whistle. Man, don't play dumb. Words going around that someone sent pictures to her boss. Photos of her screwing around with clients and... He hesitated. Wait, did you do this? I took a slow sip of my coffee. You think I'd stoop that low? Silence. Then, yeah, I do. I didn't confirm or deny it. Let people wonder. Emily worked in corporate sales, and her company had a strict policy on relationships with clients. Apparently, one of her boy toys wasn't just a random fling. He was a major account she had been handling for months. Sleeping with him wasn't just unethical. It was a fireable offense. The company didn't hesitate. They cut her loose immediately. I checked my phone, no messages from her yet. But I knew they were coming. And sure enough, within the hour, she called. I let it ring twice before answering. Her voice was panicked. You absolute piece of garbage. What the hell did you do? I chuckled. Good morning to you too, Emily. You ruined me, she screamed. I got fired. They said someone sent them pictures. That's crazy, I said, feigning innocence. I wonder who could have done such a thing. You're lying, she snapped. This is revenge, isn't it? Because I left you? Because you couldn't handle that I moved on? I laughed, loudly. Oh, is that the story now? That you left me? I caught you in a freaking hotel room, Emily. You didn't move on. You got exposed. She sucked in a sharp breath. You think you're so damn smart, she hissed. But guess what? I'm not done. You may have taken my job, but you're not taking my life. I'll be fine. I always land on my feet. Sure, I said casually. If you say so. But I wasn't finished yet. I had one last move to make. And it was going to be glorious. 2 days passed. And Emily went completely silent. No calls, no texts, nothing. I figured she was licking her wounds, trying to figure out her next move now that she had lost everything. But I knew her too well. She wasn't done. She was the kind of person who would rather set fire to everything than admit defeat. And I was right. It happened on a Friday afternoon. I was at my apartment, enjoying the first real peace I'd felt in months, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up. "Mr. Carter?" a voice asked. Male. Professional. Lawyer. I already knew where this was going. "Speaking," I said, keeping my tone light. "This is Thomas Reynolds. I represent Ms. Emily Carter. She has filed a formal complaint stating that you engaged in defamation, harassment, and illegal surveillance." I almost laughed. "She's really trying this, huh?" I said. "And what, exactly, does she think she's going to win?" "She is willing to drop the complaint," the lawyer continued, ignoring my tone. "If you agree to provide a financial settlement in the divorce. She believes she is entitled to compensation for emotional distress caused by—" I didn't let him finish. "Let me stop you right there, Tom." I leaned back in my chair, smirking. "First of all, I legally hired a private investigator. Everything gathered was above board. Second, Emily is the one who cheated. And third, I have all the texts and emails where she and her boyfriend— oh, sorry, her divorce attorney turned lover— tried to frame me as the bad guy." Silence. I could practically hear him scrolling through his notes, realizing his client was screwed. "Tom," I said, dropping my voice to something colder, sharper. "You can go back to Emily and tell her that not only am I not paying her a damn cent, but if she keeps pushing this, I will take every single piece of evidence I have and make it public. I will make sure everyone she knows, her family, her friends, her next employer, sees exactly who she is." Another long pause, then a sigh. "I'll relay your message." I hung up, and that, finally, was the last time Emily ever tried to screw me over. A week later, the divorce was finalized. No money, no settlement, nothing. She had lost everything. And me? For the first time in a long time, I was free.